Hey guys, it's Lisa and welcome to my channel. Today we're going to make over some items that I bought wholesale. Now I order a large load and they come, and a lot of times I'm not happy with some of the items. And this is really cute, but I feel like it needs something. So I spray painted the wheels in a flat black, and then I went over the whole thing on the outside with just a little bit of that black. I just didn't cover it well, but I wanted something so that when I go to distress it, I have a dark color underneath. So I'm giving this 2 coats of the Color-buttercream, and I even painted the inside, which was pointless because I changed the inside color at some point. So I'll give this 2 coats of the Color-buttercream and let it dry well, and I'm gonna be adding some transfers to this. Now at this place that I order from, a lot of these items come with a really rustic finish on them. And I really like that, but sometimes it's a little too rustic and they miss places that I would have painted. And so a lot of times I do some work on them before I sell them. Yeah, I tried to think of a way that I could add an arm and handle to this and just kind of make it a wagon that pulls, but couldn't really figure that out and didn't want to take too much time in trying to figure it out. So here's where I'm painting this inside, and again I end up painting it a different color. So I bought some transfers at a thrift store, and there were several in a pack, but all they were was vine. And so again, I've had those a while, and so I decided I would use some of them on this and then just add some bits and pieces of my flower transfers and just kind of build a design with the 2 of them. So I transferred this vine all the way around. I used the bottom half of the design on one side, and then the top half on the other side. And then I just started adding some bits and pieces from transfers that I had left over. I do this a lot when I use a transfer and maybe it's a flower that I wouldn't use or don't really find anything that it will work on. And so I just kind of save those little bits and pieces. And I have enough of these flowers that I'll be able to put enough on each side. And then I added some transfers from the set Vintage Post. That's a Dixie Belle set. And this is just little scraps, again, that I had cut off other pieces. And I'm just going to randomly put those all around the box. And then because I didn't put a whole lot on the front and the back, I decided to add this stencil to both the front and the back. And after I did that, then I decided to paint the inside of the box in the color Gravel Road. And that's a dark gray, but it's a warm dark gray. And so I'm stenciling this in a darker gray also, so it will bring it all together. And then once I got this covered and it dried well, then I took it outside and used my orbital sander, and I did some pretty heavy distressing on the outside of the box. And then I finished it all off with a clear coat to seal in the paint. And now it has a little more interest, and it's more likely to attract a buyer. And then the next item that I'm going to make over is some sort of, I guess the only thing I know to call it is a wooden cloche. So it has the box in the bottom and the dome shape on the top. But I feel like it should have been painted better. I feel like they should have painted down the sides of the arms, or whatever you call those, and inside the bottom of the box. I just really wasn't happy with that. I also think that top needed much more character. So I got this knob that actually came on another cloche that I ordered from them, but that piece was broken. So I took the top off it, and I'm going to add it to this one. And there's really not any way to get a screwdriver in there or even a nail gun so that I can nail that on. So I'm just going to use some wood glue, and I'm using Tight Bond here. And I'm just going to glue that and use plenty of glue and make sure that I let it set up good. And I also added a little bit of hot glue to it to hold it in place while I paint it, because I'm going to be painting this in the color Buttercream. And I just used one coat on it because it's already similar to the color that I want. And even that wooden part, I don't mind if a little wood grain shows through. I just don't want it to be such a stark difference. So I give this one coat of the color Buttercream and let it dry well. And I went back and forth on whether or not to add feet to this, and just decided not to add them. And then once that dried well, then I used that same stencil that I used on the little wagon, and I'm just going to stencil parts of it on this. So on two sides I'll put flowers, and then on the two opposite sides I will put, on opposite sides actually, I'll put flowers, and then on the other sides and opposite I will put fresh cut. And then to tie this to the rest of the vignette, I decided to do that gravel road on that top finial, and then just on the bottom of the inside. And then because this is not going to have a dark color to distress down to, I just take a marker and do some fake distressing on it, just by kind of writing down those, just kind of rubbing the ink across the high spots. And I didn't do a whole lot, but just enough to kind of bring the darker with the lighter, and then I finished this off with a clear spray. And I think I just used a polyacrylic spray. And this will be the item that I make my hang tag for. So this is just a card, and I think that I got it at the Dollar Tree. I can't remember for sure. And I just fold it in half. The one side of it is just has that faint print on it, and the other side is going to be the inside. It's going to be hidden anyway. So because I'm going to turn this into a little pocket, I use my circle cutter, and I think it's a 2-inch circle cutter, and I just cut a little partial circle out of the top so that when I stick something down in that pocket, it will show through. And then I just used some regular school glue and glued it closed. So now I have a little envelope or a little pocket. And a very sweet viewer sent me some of these little scrapbook papers, and this is one that I'm going to use on the front of this. And I'll use the scrap that I'm cutting off on part of the little tag that's going to go inside. I like to do these little tags that are 2 parts. I don't want to spend too much time on my tags, but you'll be able to see this is very quick to do, and it's just you can put it on an extra special item. This is some of that netting that the netted ribbon that I got at the Dollar Tree. I'm about to run out of it. I need to get back over there and get some more because I really, really use this. And this is the only color that I've had, but I've seen some of my viewers' hang tags that they've used some of the other colors, and it's so pretty. But what I'm doing here is trying to add a little bit of texture and lift to this corner because I'm going to put a nest there. And I'm just going to use some Spanish moss, and I need something to kind of hold it in place better. But before I did that, I added the lace that I needed to add because I didn't want that to be in the way. Now I could have used hot glue here, but because this was such a fine lace, I decided to use my liquid fabric glue. So I'll trim out both the top and the bottom of this little scrapbook paper. And then I'll just use my little netted ribbon and some Spanish moss and just build a little makeshift nest. And I just want it just in that lower corner because I want this little butterfly to still show. And then I just kind of push that Spanish moss down inside that netting and just glued everything in place. And wherever it needed secure, I just added a little bit more hot glue and just kind of built the nest that way. And then a very smart viewer gave me an idea for eggs. I make little clay eggs or use the little bitty tiny styrofoam eggs, and she said she just buys the Great Northern beans, the little white ones, and uses those for miniature eggs. And obviously they're not shaped exactly like an egg, neither are the pearls that I use, but it just kind of mimics that look. And so I went and got me some Great Northern beans today and decided to give that a try, and it worked really well. So I can't remember who it was that told me that, but what a great idea. So I just glued a few little eggs in there, and that mimicked my little bird's nest. Now I have a tiny little bird mold that I could have added a bird to this, but I just decided to keep it somewhat simple because I'm going to be adding that tag inside it, so I didn't feel like I needed to do too much on the outside. As you can see, those little beans there are the perfect size for this. Now, I just love to make different styles of hang tags. I really like to make shabby chic ones, but this, the more natural ones, may possibly be my favorite to make. And because I am making this one in more natural colors, then the little tag that I'm going to put down inside it is just going to be out of regular brown craft paper, or craft paper cardstock rather. And so I just made sure that it fit down in there, and then I'm going to kind of dress up the tag inside. I'm not going to do a whole lot to the tag inside, but I'm going to dress it up somewhat. So again, I'm going to use that little strip that was left over from that little piece of that little piece of scrapbook paper, and just kind of glue that on the bottom so that it kind of brings these two together and makes them cohesive. You're not going to see this when it's inside it, but then when you pull it out, you can see that they go together. So then after I cut that, I antiqued around the edges, and I'm just going to put a little butterfly stamp on it. And here I am just adding some of this same lace just to the center of this tag, again, just to kind of mimic the same look on the outside so that they just go together really well. And then again, I have a little butterfly stamp that I'm just going to stamp to that top since my other paper has a butterfly on it. And then I'll put my little string in it. And I think with this string, I just used that same lace that I trimmed out the bottom on, because I had a little piece of it left, but not much. So I just went ahead and made a little string for the top of this tag. Now obviously I'm not going to be able to attach this with that string to the item that I put it on. That's just all about the look of it. So I'm just gonna punch a little hole in the corner of the large tag and put my string there to hang it with. And for that string, I just used some regular jute twine because, again, it's just kind of bringing these colors all together. And then that's all that I did to this. So there's my little cloche, and there is the tag on top. And then the last item that I'm going to do, I get these wooden windows from that same place. And again, the paint job is just really sloppy on them. And I feel like the sides need to be painted some. So I just went over the whole thing with one coat of the Color-buttercream. And now I'm just going to make a mold to go on the top of this. And I will try to find this mold and attach it in the description. But this is just a furniture mold, or what I would consider a furniture mold. And I'm just going to use regular DAS clay, or DOS clay. I'm not sure how that's pronounced, but I'm just going to use that and make a mold for this, and then glue it on with Titebond Thick and Quick Glue, and paint that also in the Color-buttercream. And that's all that I did to that window. I did do a little bit of sanding on it to add a little bit of natural distress to it, but other than that, adding this mold and painting it in the Color-buttercream, and obviously I had to seal that paint once I was done with a clear coat. Now I have a couple of hang tags from a viewer that I'll show at the end of this video that I got in the mail today. So I'll be showing those when I complete this item. I wanted to take some time and thank you guys, not only for watching. I really do appreciate you taking time to watch my videos, but also for all the sweet comments. They're so encouraging, and I know that it takes time to do that, and I know how hard that is because I don't always have time to comment on videos that I watch. So I do deeply appreciate it, and I want you to know that I read every single one, and am so thankful for every single one. I may not always get to respond personally. Sometimes I have to enlist the help of my daughter, but I do read every single one. And you can probably tell the difference in when I'm responding to a comment or when she is, because we may word things a little differently, but I do deeply, deeply appreciate you taking the time to do that. So I always glue my molds on when the clay is still wet, because you'll get less cracking that way. And I also paint them while they're still wet. Now, obviously, if you're going to be doing any waxes to them afterwards, you want to let them dry overnight, because you don't want to put any kind of pressure on it and lose your detail. But I do always glue them on wet, and I do always paint them wet. Now, I sell a lot of these windows, but this will actually be the first one that I've added a clay mold to, so I'm interested to see how it will sell. Now, I know it's early to start working on fall crafts, and I'm not quite ready to do that, but I do need to make sure that I have some hang tags made up ahead of time to put on them when I do start making them. So probably in the near future, I'm going to be doing another hang tag video so that I can do some of my fall hang tags. Now, always when I glue these on, I make sure to get the glue all around the edges, very close to the edges, and then I just put some slight pressure all around the outside edge of the mold, without putting too much pressure on the mold itself, but you don't want that lifting around the edges. Again, once I get this glued on, then I'll put a coat of the Color-buttercream on this so that it will match the window, and then I did some distressing on this and with my orbital sander, and then I finished it off with a clear coat. Now, a lot of you will ask what brand of clear coat I use. I'm not picky at all about what brand I use. Just any clear finish will do. And the hang tags I got today were from Elizabeth from Kentucky. And Elizabeth says that these were her very first hang tags that she made, and it's hard to believe that these are your first, Elizabeth, because you did such an awesome job. I love the lace. I love the soft colors and pearls. And that little fabric under that bow with the pearls is just such a sweet little touch. And I love that she coordinated the back with the front. It's just so pretty. And then the next hang tag has a similar look, but I love the texture she created with that little netted fabric at the bottom. And then that's some Christmas script fabric, which I love so much. It's so pretty. These are absolutely beautiful, Elizabeth. Thank you so much for sending them. And thank you to all of you for sending your hang tags. It just brightens my day every time I go to the mailbox and see that there's one in there. I enjoy looking at them so much, and my customers are really enjoying them and even trying to buy some, which I will not sell. But some will just stand and just take their time and look over that wall. So it's just really been a hit in my store. One lady today asked me if she could take some pictures so she could get some ideas. So you guys are just doing such a great job on those. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope to see you in the next. Thank you so much for watching. Have a great evening, and God bless you and your family.